Here's the uncomfortable truth that many people in the green industry don't want to admit. We've made growth the god and people the afterthought. We've got companies bragging about 300% revenue increases. Meanwhile, their crews can't afford groceries, and workers are getting fired for just asking for a dollar raise after they've been there for a couple years. Today's guest, he's done biting his tongue. Michael Tomaino runs LandCrafters Florida, and if you are expecting the usual, here's how we scaled success story, you're in the wrong place. Michael is not here to polish trophies. He's here to call out an industry that's breaking itself from the inside out. If you're a business owner in this industry, buckle up because this episode is going to challenge your comfort zone. Let's get into it. Well, I'm excited. Michael is a client of ours, Michael Tomaino from LandCrafters Florida. And Michael, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Really appreciate you chipping in here and contributing to the discussion.
Hey, Chad, it's really great to be here. Excited to talk to you and go through the points we've outlined.
We've been working with Michael in this company for a couple of years. And one of the things we recently did as we started to expand to do more posting for him on social media is we had an exercise where we were trying to find out what makes LandCrafters different as a company. And we ended up like hitting a nerve. And Michael's a passionate person that you'll appreciate through this episode. But I saw a level of passion that came out in you after even knowing you for a couple of years that I just was like, this is awesome. We have a topic here that everyone needs to hear, everyone needs to talk about. I'm sure we'll get a lot of discussion in the comments from this episode. So we were talking about what makes LandCrafters stand out. We got onto the theme of how you guys treat people. And I know my team has been impacted by how you treat people too. We appreciate that. I think we have a great topic to talk about today. So before we do that, why don't you give the audience a little background on LandCrafters as a company, like what you guys do, where you're at, what you're all about?
So LandCrafters Florida is a commercial landscape company that services the broader Tampa Bay area. We are expanding. The past few years have brought in a lot of growth opportunities for us. But I think the story really starts with LandCrafters of Clearwater, which was the predecessor company up until 2017. Essentially, LandCrafters of Clearwater for 20 odd years serviced the Clearwater beach area predominantly. It was a smaller company, but they did gardening work for clients who cared about their landscapes and were willing to pay for a premium service. In 2017, we rebranded to LandCrafters Florida, and a lot of the same clients that we had been servicing in some of the coastal areas had moved into apartments and townhomes and HOAs that wanted that same level of service. So, since 2020, we have been growing. We've serviced predominantly HOAs and then larger homes/estates, essentially places that people live. And the reason being is we find that clientele has a willingness to, one, appreciate our work, two, appreciate our people, and pay a premium for the work being done. But why is that important to us? My goal forever and always is to create career opportunities that mean something to our teams and to people outside of our company that are interested in joining. So in order to do that, we have to find clients who are willing to pay appropriately. I would say from the people perspective, the way that we run the business is a little bit interesting. Our org chart is upside down. We believe that our employees that do the work come first. And I actually sit at the bottom of the org chart, believe it or not. The reason that is important is because we have always and will always promote them and look to create meaningful career opportunities for everybody employed for us.
Yeah. And you guys, I spent some time with your crews. There's a level of enthusiasm and appreciation that isn't just something that you promote. I mean, it is real. It's lived. I saw it from account managers to crew leaders to irrigation technicians, people in the office, designers. I saw it when I was there. We typically, when we go and we do a video shoot, I have to hype up people.
Mm.
There was no hyping needed. Everyone was really, really excited to be there and be part of what you're doing there as a company. So let's talk a little bit about like, what was your entry point for the industry? Because you had said you stepped into a company that already existed. So give a little background, kind of how did you get into the green industry? What did that look like?
I would say from just a high level perspective, I was in New York. I was in a consulting career that was going pretty well, but my brother was down in Florida and he had been working for landscape company after landscape company for years. And every company, big and small, that he worked for, he got treated really badly. Now, I had a change of career, so to speak, and I thought, what would be my next step? And I ended up concluding that, hey, if I'm going to work very hard, that I should be working for people that will actually appreciate it, that actually need me, and that could use sort of the skill set that I had developed to help grow their careers and support them in the work that they were doing. So, I never thought that I would be in the landscape industry long term, but I ended up joining, and it's been an absolute blessing. I have met so many salt of the earth people, so many wonderful people, and so many just absolute rock stars. The conception that people have about the industry is, it's commoditized, the work's easy, that there's just so many landscapers to choose from. And what I've seen, especially over the past couple of years, is the amount of true professionals that exist in this industry and that support the industry has gone up incredibly. So really have had a positive experience, love the industry, love the people that work within it, and really excited to be here.
I've been in this since 98. And I'm like, every time I'm like, yeah, I've been in the industry 20 years. And I'm like, oh, wait, no. Now it's 25. And now I'm like, oh, now I'm past 25. And it's been a long time. And I was one of those people, like you were talking about, that in the inverted chart when I started, I was a field worker and then got into account management and marketing. And then now I'm at the agency here for about 9 years. And so that it's just been like amazing to me, like this industry, the level of professionalism, the level of sophistication that I've seen in the last 10 years is just rapidly increased. And it's awesome. And it's just funny thinking of our younger selves, like thinking like, if we could take a step back in time, what would I tell myself? So what about you? What would you tell yourself if you could take a step back in time and give younger Michael some advice? What would you say?
Yeah, Chad, I'll tell you, your story resonates with me. And I had a conversation last week with an older gentleman who is now on his second landscape business. And he's been very successful. He's grown 2 massive companies on his own. And he's not very known in the industry. He's not somebody you see at the conferences. He's not on social media and so on. And I had a very pointed question for him. And it was, what is your secret? How have you done this twice now? And he's on the road to scaling a massive operation. And his response was really simple. It's always people. People come first. They matter. And I just have reflected on that. And I asked him, I said, well, what example, do you have that you could just share with me? He had a crew leader that is now the CFO of one of the largest companies in the US. And so I think, when you hear Chad's story, when you hear that story, when you hear the countless stories out there of people that are being promoted off trucks, supported, and so on, I think my younger self would want to be more understanding to the fact that the people we work with come first. If you hire right, you solve most of your problems. And to add on to that, from my experience at least, we spend a lot of time talking about systems and SOPs and processes and conferences. What I've learned is the right person is a walking, talking SOP. You don't have to spend countless hours creating processes that nobody will use when you can hire right, hire smart, believe in somebody, and allow that person to run and be accountable to their role.
Yeah, some people, they just all of a sudden you kind of have this example that you're trying to set in your company, like this is the way that we execute this certain process. And along comes someone and just their natural inclination, the way that they treat customers, team members, all of a sudden you have to keep your eyes open for those things because they tend to rewrite what we thought was the best way to do something because they just have amazing perspectives, especially like the one that you shared, someone that has like this vast experience or just outside of the industry experience. They just have like this great inspiration. So that's pretty cool. We had talked a little bit about, and I've said this before too, that, I appreciate the accolades that companies in our industry get, but a lot of them are focused on certain metrics that don't really tell the story of what we're talking about today. There are some recent initiatives that I really like that, are identifying companies with really fantastic cultures, but we do have kind of an obsession in this industry to lean towards one metric. Do you remember we were talking about that and you were saying this is not what it's about? And let's talk about that and unpack like us looking at the wrong things sometimes.
The most, talked about terms right now are total enterprise value and EBITDA. Why the owners, rightfully so, want to maximize equity value. I get it. But little to no conversations are being had with how are we arriving at these numbers? How do we get there? And who are the people involved through that process? And so what I continue to see, and there are, just to be candid, there are a couple of owners in Florida that I want to send flowers to because they continue to drop the ball with key employees. They continue to put their own needs over their employees' needs, and that needs to stop as an industry. I personally thought we were beyond that these conferences, the talks, the podcast, the blogs, everything that I read tells me we are professionals. We are operating in the sense of conscious capitalism, which implies that everybody wins, not just one party. But what I'm seeing is almost the opposite in that, just a few recent examples. I have employees that have decades of experience in their technical skill set showing up to me saying, well, I got fired because I asked for $1 more an hour. And I'm asking myself, how exactly does that make sense? That's common. We then have the issue where we are promoting the idea where let's hire people that may not be U.S. citizens, undervalue them, underpay them, and overwork them, and hide that from everyone. And regardless of what somebody's political view is, I think that all humans should be treated equally, especially in a workplace. And when that is being done, and we have owners calling me, oh, ICE showed up at my office, and I'm asking myself, in what world did you think that it was appropriate to do what you were doing? At LandCrafters, we have a saying, and it's pretty simple: no ice here unless it's in a drink. And
I like that.
That's the reality of it. We keep seeing these outcomes, and we keep seeing this notion that growth at all costs is everything. We hear 300% growth rate in 1 year. Meanwhile, the same company has their account managers, their crew leaders, their salespeople, and everyone in between applying for jobs at LandCrafters. I can't hire them all. I don't have the capacity yet. So I don't know what got lost in translation here, but my hope and prayer is that for all of these people that come to work each day, and my core belief is that people do not show up wanting to do a bad job. You got to assume positive intent. For all of these people that come to all of these organizations and hope to do something meaningful, we as an industry have to do a better job of showing them the respect that they deserve. This work is hard, it's hot, it's long, it's tiring, it's brutal, And a lot of times clients don't appreciate the work that's actually being done by the people doing it. So we as leaders in this industry have to be the ones to say, Johnny, I really appreciate you showing up today. Sally, I really appreciate you showing up today. I like what you did there. And more importantly, when we're going through a season of high inflation, of economic turmoil, and all of these other, sort of events that are outside of everybody's control, we need to be understanding of the fact that inflation has a real impact on people's lives. And if we're sitting here year over year talking about 22-cent raises, talking about, somebody's worked for us for 2 years, they don't deserve $1 more. We're having these understandings, but on the same side, we're also saying we're growing at 300%, then we need to do a better job of being there for the people that allow us to create the equity value that all of these owners are enjoying.
Totally agree with you. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of bad perpetrators of this. There are some obviously great companies out there doing it. And I love the fact that you're giving a voice to this. And I'd love to hear it in the industry when people are giving substantial, actual practical examples of how they're actually valuing their people on every day and year to year. So let's talk a little bit about these bad companies, these bad actors that are in our industry. What are some of the things that you're seeing like in your local marketplace? Like what are the things that your competitors are doing that either makes your eyes roll or your blood just boil?
I honestly, Chad, I don't even know who our competitors are. I focus so much of my time on people that I don't track who we're actually competing with. But just some of the talking points that I've heard recently from clients are, well, I just received a contract with 2008 pricing on it. And I'm asking myself, in what world does that make sense? What we need to realize as owners is when an HOA or a commercial property manager goes through and resets the budget to 2008 numbers, we are shrinking the apple pie for all of ourselves. We are literally deflating what could be a very promising outcome in an attempt to compete. I hear that word a lot. We're competing. That is not competing. In a world where we are all operating under the same rules, the same structures, we're playing an infinite sort of outcome. We can't sit here and say, well, I'm going to go in, I'm going to undercut, I'm going to overpromise, and then I'm not going to adhere to scope and then pretend like that's good for anybody. Because when that plan gets set for the expenses needed for landscape management services, and you reset it back to 2008, it takes 5 to 10 years to get the boards or the owners of the properties to bring that pricing back. And so from that perspective, one, the client loses. Two, the company loses because there's pricing that exists in the marketplace that we're not capitalizing on. And then three, more importantly, the people doing the work lose, because I don't know a single person that could get paid what they were being paid in 2008 in any state in the US and survive currently. So that all brings me to, if we're going to do that, then I choose to not play along. And it's happening over and over and over again. And I'm still not sure why, just to be candid.
Yeah. And yet then we have companies that put things in their marketing on their website. Like we treat everybody like family. And I'm like, boy, if that was the family, I certainly wouldn't want to go to the family get-togethers. And they're doing that type of thing. They're undercutting, they're paying people inferior rates, and you just can't even keep up. I think one of the examples you had given me when we were talking about this was like, they can't afford a dozen eggs,
Oh, it's insanity. And I'll tell you what I didn't realize existed and is now showing up is, in the past, let's say 2 months, I have talked to 3 different very well-established salespeople for larger companies. all three of them reached out to me. I did not reach out to them, and I'm not trying to hire one right now, just so that we're intellectually honest here. The common thread between those three conversations was, I am burnt out and I am selling a product I don't believe in. And we're talking about people that have decades of experience, that have been doing this forever. And so why is that happening? Because whether we like it or not, people see the way we're treating the crews. They see the way we're compensating the crews. They see what the crews have to deal with. They see the lack of buy-in from the front line. And if you don't know this, which you should if you're on this podcast, we are in a people-oriented business. People serving people forever. So if the crews that are doing the work and producing the product aren't bought in, then how do we expect that our top leaders are going to also be bought in? They're not. And they're changing companies. They don't know where to go. They keep going and saying, where is my home? It doesn't feel like home anymore. And, I heard news that a company had told all of its employees, in 2025, we're going to hand you a raise. We're going to give you a raise. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. The hourly people got a 22-cent raise. 22 cents. And I'll tell you, what's missed in that conversation is, if we don't think that an account manager, a respectable account manager or a respectable salesperson or operations leaders sees that and says, if I was in their shoes, you would treat me the same way, you're absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
And so the reality here is, I don't want to hire anymore. I can't hire anymore. But I'm concerned, I am personally concerned with the amount of inbounds that I'm receiving. I want people to have homes outside of LandCrafters Florida. Yeah. We do not need to operate like this.
Yeah, I think, like believing in what you sell is a big part of it. When I was a production worker, I always enjoyed selling. I mean, you know, Michael, I get more money out of you all the time. I'm always getting you to spend more money with us. But I love selling. I love like finding problems, getting solutions, explaining to people, why they should use it. And I remember I worked for a very large corporation in this industry. And when I was still in the field and I wanted to do sales, but I saw the way the salespeople operated. It was very dishonest. And I didn't believe in what I was doing. And then I moved from that large company to a smaller regional company that had really great culture, great ethics in the way they treated their clients. And then I became excited again about sales. And I was like, man, when there is an account manager position open, I am not going to be out sweating my butt off anymore. This is what I want to do. I want to work with people and consult. And I got that. And it was just a fantastic journey because I believed in what we were doing and because I did the work and I was compensated well. And I knew that people like me and all the other team members were doing a good job. We were compensated well. We weren't being beaten to death with quotas and we were being compensated and there were a lot of great perks. I think another really great measure of a great company culture, you and I have talked about this, that do people refer people they know to actually work there? Like we have one company we work with out at Washington, DC, and we did a video last year about a team member that one by one referred 4 other family members to work across 2 different branches.
That's incredible.
Imagine that conversation at a family reunion when you go there and you say, hey, thanks for getting me to work here. This place sucks. You don't do that if you have a great culture. And I'm sure that you see that even in your organization, that people are bringing people in. They're friends. They're looking for opportunities for family members and friends, right?
Yeah, no, I'll tell you. So just one more point regarding the last point, Chad, is, when you talk about salespeople, account managers, leaders, C-suite executives, the top tier can work almost anywhere and are able to sell or produce or strategize in pretty much every realm that you can come to expect in this industry. What one has to ask themselves is, after 20 years of doing it, why are you still doing it? What gets you out of bed each morning? And for me, what I tell our top people, it's simple. You're creating career opportunities for people that wouldn't have had them if you didn't exist. And that excites them because at the end of the day, an incentive check only goes so far. A year-end performance check only goes so far. There has to be a purpose behind what we're doing. And the best purpose that I have seen, at least in my short experience in this industry, is being there and supporting the growth of all of the people that exist around us. And that's what I think home looks like for these seasoned professionals that are currently lost. And, so as far as employee referrals, I'll tell you, Indeed hates our employees because they refer most of our new employees. We don't need to advertise much. And it's a beautiful thing. One of the key metrics we track is employee retention. We all talk about client retention, and it's important. I totally understand that. But the reality is when you're in the service world, people matter most. I think people work with people they know, like, and trust. We've heard that over and over again, and it resonates as true. Even seeing Chad's company, what Chad has done over the years is he's kept the key people in place and he's made it enjoyable for us to work with them. So when the issues arise, it's a lot easier to talk to the same person that I've been talking to for years. So from the LandCrafters perspective, and I think it should be a broad industry perspective, I firmly believe that employee retention drives client retention. And if we spent more time talking about the employee side of the world, I think the client side would become a lot easier.
Yeah, great team members keep great clients, and great clients will then refer other clients. So it has a waterfall effect. So we talked a little bit about raises and compensation, that sort of thing. Let's talk a little about benefits and recognition. What are some real tangible ways or maybe points of advice that you would give to our audience about what do those actual things look like in a day-to-day to have a great company culture?
Yeah. So, I'll tell you, the first thing that we do is we recognize people daily, all of the time. We have group chats for everything on text message. So we're sending out text all day long. Great job. Good job. Wow, that looks amazing. We have town halls each month. Each morning, the team meets. We talk positivity. We talk about wins both personally and professionally. And we encourage people to get education, one, inside of the industry and outside of the industry. And we pay for it. If you pass, if you receive a certificate of some sort and you bring it to us, we comp the employee for it. We want people learning. In fact, in every employment agreement, we expect to receive 2 certificates off of that employee each year. There needs to be some sort of learning that's happened outside of the company each year. And most of our employees do that year over year and love it. From a compensation perspective, I can tell you that everybody at LandCrafters Florida is on an incentive plan of some sort. Everybody knows what a win looks like, and they're driving towards that every day. And the beauty of that is when you align incentive plans, an old saying that I really like is, if you show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. If you align the incentives starting with the crews going all the way up, everybody's working on the same team with the same goal in mind. From an insurance, the health insurance, the PTO, from all of these other ancillary items that we include, I can tell you right now that the newest person on a crew receives the same options in health insurance and PTO that I get or anybody else gets. We are consistent across the board. Everybody is treated as equals, and we believe that that matters to them because, as I said early on, the people doing the work are the ones that build the business, not the owner in his chair or whatever it is, whoever it is. The people that are doing the work every day are the ones that build the business. So they should have access to the same sort of outcomes that anybody else would.
We said a little bit ago that, like a great team member is going to keep a great client. And I saw there's just a level of, I get to see behind the scenes. We go on video shoots for clients, and in some companies, there's a greater degree of tension that exists. It's almost like this unwritten thing where people aren't really certain of what people think of them, or they're not really certain what they're supposed to do on a property. And you had this phrase one time that you introduced to me called certainty of execution. And I thought that was it was a great way to sum up, from an employer perspective, there is a level of certainty that your team has because they know these things have been laid out. But on the client side, I imagine this would build a lot of trust, because of the high degree of certainty that you and your team have laid out for how you treat clients and what happens on jobs and how we're going to treat you. How does that hit the real world when you're dealing with clients?
From a certainty perspective, I think that Publix in Florida, and for anybody in Southeast US, Publix has a great model in that they look internally to promote up, always and forever. So there are people in charge of departments. There are people in charge of stores that don't look like executive level people, but have been trained and have been formed into those people over time. So when we talk about certainty in our sense, we have taken the same approach that Publix has always used. We give our team certainty in that if a role opens up, they will have the chance to apply for it, and they will be interviewed. And, although this is probably not fair, and some consultants would argue with me, we look internally first, and we strive to promote from within. What that does is the same crew lead who's got the highest quality, sort of report card year over year that a client knows and has experienced and has talked to, now gets the opportunity to move into production management or operations management or account management. The client, I can't tell you how many clients have sent us emails to that crew lead saying, "This is awesome. I am so proud of you. You deserve it." I think, as we talked about earlier, when the clients can see the same people showing up year over year and the company valuing them, I think it drives client loyalty. The biggest complaint that property managers broadly ever give me, ever, this is it. The account manager keeps changing. The account manager keeps changing. The account manager keeps changing. They want certainty in person. Who am I going to form a relationship with? And that's what they're looking for. Humans like relationships. We're not meant to be alone. When we have this attitude that we can fire and replace and not adhere to basic, normal human respect principles, then we end up in a place where the clients get burned. So, as I said earlier, I really do believe that employee retention, promoting within, allowing the same names to show up year over year on the same properties drives certainty in client mind.
Yeah. And it's not just the same in the landscape industry. It's the same thing in the marketing industry. I'm very proud the team that we have, specifically you had mentioned like account management team, people that have great experience that we want to reward as they're taking really good care of our clients, because the last thing you want to do as a leader is to have to step back into that role yourself to keep all those clients happy, or have someone else, doing double duty, and then everybody loses. And trying to find someone else to do that, you have to take really great care of your people. So as we look at the industry as a whole, as I said, this is not to demonize all companies and say that this is happening, but I think it's pretty rampant. Do you feel like a lot of green companies are built to last?
I will say something here that's going to strike a nerve with a lot of people, and that's okay, because this is my belief set. I do believe that building a company to sell one day is the most sustainable thing that an entrepreneur can do. Because if somebody's willing to buy it, it means that you've created something that will last. That's critical. Not saying that you need to sell or that that's a goal, but it is a framework to sort of look at when growing a company. That being said, what's happening in the landscape industry right now, and I just want to preface, there are a lot of phenomenal operators out there. And for all of you that are phenomenal and doing a wonderful job, respect. I have respect for all of you. Love you guys. Keep doing it. You're inspiring the rest of us. But for those that are building these companies to sell right now, the private equity market has been buying, if I'm being candid, assets that are not as good as the world believes that they are. So owners are receiving paychecks for companies that are not long-term sustainable. So you ask yourself, why is that? So here's the truth. Everybody saw KKR buy Brickman, combine two companies, and said, I can do that too. I'm going to build the next BrightView. The issue is there's a lot of amateur hour activity in private equity right now. We had a decade of 0% interest rates, and everybody from all of the top schools said, I'm going to open up a private equity shop. I am going to raise money. They have not seen the level of operational excellence that somebody like KKR has. So they're going around spending other people's money on companies that flat out will not generate returns long term. And they're doing it over and over and over and over again. Everybody wants to be KKR, but what we forget is that KKR is the best private equity shop that ever existed in the history of time. What is that doing to the industry? We have owners building companies and seeing playbooks that are being implemented at other companies who are selling and saying, me too, I'll sign up for that. I'm going to build fast. I'm going to build like that. I'm going to exit. So all of this capital is chasing, in a lot of instances, the wrong platforms. I can tell you in our area, there's probably 4 to 5 companies that if they don't sell, they will not last because they are following a playbook that does not work long term. And it's creating a situation where the employees who have treated all these places like home are really the ones that are just being scorned through all of this. And what else is coming is the LPs of these private equities are going to be here in 3 to 5 years asking, what did you do with my money? Like, what were you thinking? And that is all coming. But for right now, the answer is, I think that there's a number of great companies in the industry that are doing a really good job and will last as long as the company's meant to last. But for the up and coming ones that are being built to sell, I am not sure that the majority of them are being built for longevity.
So building for longevity, I think what you're getting at and driving at is that it's about making sure you have the right people and you have a culture that even if you do sell your company, that culture stays with the company as someone acquires it so that you still continue to honor those people that are there and to train them and develop them. Isn't that what you're saying?
Right. I am saying that, but the issue, Chad, that we choose to overlook is to have the right people. You know, people in 2025 are not stupid. They have access to info, and we now have ChatGPT and all these AI programs that can tell you anything you've ever wanted. So people generally know what's going on. And when we decide to underbid, undercut, underprice, overpromise, and all these other things that are happening, what ends up happening is we naturally, in order to survive, we have to underpay, or we have to not adhere to scope that we've contractually obliged ourselves to. I'm seeing instances of both. We're underpaying and we are not being responsible to or accountable to what we agreed to. But in order to hold people, we have to pay them correctly. And so I think a lot of that has gotten lost because we are, as I talked about, we are creating companies to sell and sell quickly. Through all of that, I think people just get lost, and that's happening right now. There are a lot of amazing human beings that don't have homes. And you say, well, they're employed here, but you have to ask them, do they want to be employed there? And you're talking about people that make good money, high salaries, big incentive plans, but they literally don't believe in their job, and they've been doing this for decades. So yes, people come first, but if we as leaders are not leading the way and saying, hey, we are not a commodity. Hey, our service is valuable. And the reason why it's valuable is because the people performing it are valuable, then we're going to lose every time. We need to do a better job of making sure that these companies that are scaling fast have the right framework, the right people framework in place to keep these people around.
So let's wrap this up. I mean, I know we could talk about this for a long time, but for the sake of the people that are listening or watching us right now, what are some things that a company can do? Like, what does a successful, sustainable landscape business really look like? I think one of the things stand out to me, because I know you and I have talked about this extensively, is I really love this hat. Michael gave me this hat when we were down there. I was like, dude, I want one of these hats. This is fresh. I love this. I love this logo. And like they have this giant agave on the side of their trucks. It's really sweet. I was like, give me one of these hats. Yeah. I wore this to the beach on Saturday, and I took a picture and sent it to Michael. Actually, I said I was representing, even though he's not trying to get work in New Jersey. But
love it.
So, I mean, having a logo that people want to wear, I mean, it might seem silly, but like having branding that people, like on the weekends, like they don't mind wearing your company attire. I mean, if you're a turd as a company, nobody wants to wear your stuff because it means their friends are going to point to you, or someone in the grocery store is going to say, hey, do you work for that company? And then they're going to start like laying into you about something that happened in their HOA. That's one of the things. But what are some other things you can do to have a sustainable landscape business that really lasts? What does it look like?
I think it starts with people. Like that's, if I had to say that anything that I've gotten right, and I've gotten a lot wrong, we're still learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. I'm younger than a lot of the operators out there, and there's a lot of good people who are teaching me as I go. It's people first always. And when you talk about brand, it's interesting. We all think when I was younger, I used to think, well, it's the logo. It's the swag that I buy the team. It's the swag that I drop off at the client. And the reality is, as I've grown older, brand is developed through the sum of all interactions with that human being. When we think through that, what does a sustainable brand look like? And what does a lasting brand look like? It's one where there are positive value-added interactions every time. And I think that a lot of that has gotten lost in translation. If you hire Chad, and Chad is the best content, Chad runs the best content agency in the industry, bar none. And I have had the experience with a number of them. And your brand, the sum of the interactions that you've had with your employees and the sum of the interactions you've had with your clients is not where it needs to be, then all he's going to do for you is showcase a bad product quicker. And so, what I really reflect on is we need to be kind, we need to be transparent, we need to be accountable, we need to be genuine, and most importantly, we have to be people-centered. And I think that's what builds these companies, because when it comes to understanding pricing, when it comes to understanding marketing, when it comes to understanding operations, you can find people, as I talked about, that are walking SOPs, that have the experience, that want to do the job, that want to buy in, they want to have something called their own. But if the sum of the interactions that these people have with us is not net positive, then we can't expect that to last. So, my call out to myself is to continue to focus on people and growing and developing the relationships I have with them. And it starts internally.
That kind of reflection is great for us to look. Are we really doing that as leaders? Are we really people first? What are the tangible things that we're doing? And talk with our peers, find people that keep us accountable. Instead of us talking about how much revenue, what are you doing this year for snow? Of course, you don't do that down in Florida, but what are you guys doing this year for this or equipment or whatever? How are we having really vulnerable, authentic conversations about where we're winning and failing as leaders in building this type of culture of a place where people actually would want to work? So, Michael,
yes.
Thank you so much. If you really enjoyed some of the things that Michael had said today, or you want to argue with him, you can find him on social media. Find him on LinkedIn. I know he's really active there. That's where we mix it up most. Michael Tomaino, Tomaino. Or you can look for LandCrafters Florida. Feel free to connect with him, or you can connect with me, Chad Diller at Landscape Leadership, and I'll get you connected with him as well. Thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time.
Excellent, Chad. I appreciate it. It's been great.
All right. If you're still listening, I'm guessing something Michael said hit a nerve. And honestly, that's the whole point. If the way we treat our people doesn't change, this industry is just going to keep spinning its wheels. Bigger revenue, smaller margins, burnout crews. It's not sustainable, but it can be different. If you want to see what that looks like, go check out LandCrafters Florida. I'm going to tell you they're walking the walk. Michael loves connecting with other green industry business owners, and I know that some of you are doing a fantastic job of putting your people first, and he and I would love to hear from you. We've got more these types of conversations coming, so if this episode gave you something to think about, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating, and follow Landscape Leadership on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you spend your time online. I appreciate you being here. Here's to putting people over profit and becoming the leader in your marketplace, the kind of company everyone wants to work for, and the one that clients love being associated with. Thanks a lot.